Many thanks for joining us on the show tonight. These, of course, are the stories that made our headlines. The police force has pledged to ensure a peaceful and transparent electoral process in Ondo State ahead of the governorship election this Saturday. The spokesperson for the force, Muyiwa Adejobi, stated that the police are fully committed to safeguarding citizens' democratic rights and will take swift action against any form of violence or electoral malpractice. Security measures have been heightened across the state to prevent disruptions and also ensure a free and fair process.
Preparations for the forthcoming Ondo State gubernatorial elections, the Nigerian police force has continued to gear up its preparations and strategies, reinforcing adequate security measures to ensure a smooth run of the electoral process. As part of these security measures, the force once again reiterates the ban on the use of unauthorized siren, covered number plates, aid and escort to VIPs during the elections. Local, unauthorized, and quasi-security agencies are once again warned to stay clear, as violators will experience severe consequences and face the full wrath of the law. Restrictions on movement on the day of the election from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. still remains valid, as members of the public are advised to make adequate preparations.
The National Judicial Council has suspended 2 judges, Justice G.C. Aguma of the Rivers State High Court and Justice A.O. Owabunike of the Anambra State High Court for misconduct. Now, both judges received a 1-year suspension without pay and were placed on a 2-year watch list following the NJC's 107th meeting on November 13th to 14th, 2024, chaired by Chief Justice Kudirat Kekereekun. In addition, the NJC recommended the compulsory retirement of the Imo State Chief Judge, that's Justice T.E. Chukwuemeka Chikeka, and also the Yobe State Grand Kadi Babangana for falsifying their ages. The NJC also reviewed 30 petitions, dismissed 22 for lack of merit, referring 6 for further investigation. A committee was formed to probe complaints against Osun State Chief Judge, that's Justice A.O. Ojo, and the NJC's action underscores its commitment to upholding accountability and integrity in the judiciary. Let's also tell you that the Supreme Court on Friday dismissed a suit filed by 19 state governments challenging the constitutionality of laws establishing the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offense Commission, and also the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit. In a unanimous ruling, a 7-man panel of justices led by Justice Nwani Abba Aji found the suit lacked merit. The court affirmed the legality of the EFCC, ICPC, and NFIU, holding that the agency's powers to arrest and prosecute offenders were valid. The plaintiffs had argued that the EFCC's act violated the 1999 Constitution by failing to comply with Sections 12, which requires state approval for international convention to be adopted into Nigerian law. The court, however, disagreed, ruling that the laws were properly enacted by the National Assembly. However, our focus tonight will be on the forthcoming Ondo State governorship election, and we'll also be looking at President Tinubu's call for an end to the war in Gaza. I'll be speaking with Mr. Lanre Arogundade, is the Executive Director of the International Press Center, and also Abraham Great, a Public Affairs Analyst, and Olawale Okunniyi is the General Secretary of The Patriot. Welcome. I am Dapo Adegboye. Let's get some answers. Now, let's start off with Ondo State, where the people of Ondo, in about 48 hours or less, would actually file out to elect a new governor to direct the affairs of the state for the next 4 years. 17 political parties are fielding candidates on Saturday. Many observers believe that the race is between the standard bearers of the APC and PDP in persons of Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa and Agbola Ajayi, respectively. The Independent National Electoral Commission has confirmed the arrival of the materials and also its distribution. The commission, that's INEC, has assured Nigerians it would improve on the shortcomings of the Edo polls, ensuring it's free and fair. Well, joining me on the program at this time to discuss this is Olawale Okunniyi, is the head of that secretariat. But before then, let's have Mr. Lanre Arogundade, is the executive director of the International Press Center. He's joining me virtually from Akure. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much for having me this evening.
All right. It's great to have you once again. Now, I mean, a lot has happened to the build-up of this particular election process in Ondo State. I would like you to, speak about, if at all, your observations and maybe reservations.
Well, in terms of observations, I could say that we've had in the past couple of days, since the beginning of this week, assurances and reassurances by the major stakeholders that everything will be done to make the election credible, that is free and fair. So first, on the part of INEC, they've had a series of engagements, which actually started the upper week with the signing of the peace accord by 18 political parties and their candidates pledging that they would conduct themselves peacefully. And the engagement continued till, yesterday, when, INEC led the parties, agents, and so on to inspect the materials. That was on Wednesday, actually, at the CBN, the sensitive materials, to demonstrate that they were intact. At different forums, including the ones involving the International Press Center and the Center for Media and Society as partners under the European Union support to democratic governance. The INEC representatives told us that materials and personnel will be deployed very early. And then from the security agencies also came the assurance that their men will be on ground. For example, the Civil Defense Corps said that their men would be at every polling unit. The same thing the police have said. So these are the kind of statements we've had. These are the kind of assurances that we've gotten. And the reason why we were prompting them to give us these assurances is because we intend to hold them accountable for those promises. Because it's the election day that we're going to see whether these things would materialize. In terms of words, we can say that yes, or in terms of talk, we can say we've had a lot of talk. Now we're at the moment when these agencies need to walk the talk. And this is what we're actually looking forward to, as we're just a few hours away from voting. Obviously, there have been deployments across the state. Various INEC officials have moved to their different locations, which means that they are ready. Well, in terms of reservation, we can't be talking of reservation now, given the level of assurances. But we've also reminded them to avoid a repeat of some of the shortcomings that we observed in the Edo election. For example, during the Edo off-cycle governorship election, the INEC officials reported early at their duty posts. They were ready to move with the materials. But part of the election logistics is also that the security agents have to accompany them, and they can't move unless the security agents are there. And the security agents were late in Edo State. So we raised that and we said, look, you already know the time when polling should, the polling units should, the polling booths should open. So why don't you ensure that your men are also there so that they can move, with those personnel? One area of concern for us is the role of transporters in this whole business. because INEC does not have its own independent transport system. They rely on the Road Transport Workers Union and the road transport employers. Then for the riverine areas, at least 2 local governments, they're going to be relying on the Maritime Workers Union, who will be providing boats for them to move because they are going to travel on water. They're going to travel. We raised that, and they said that they really had this assurance from these transport workers that everything would be okay. As a matter of fact, when we visited the INEC Secretariat on Wednesday, we saw so many vehicles ready to be deployed. We also actually, on a lighter but quite serious note, asked them if those vehicles were already well fueled, because we know the challenge that we're also having with fuel in the country, and they said no, everything was ready. So this is where we are. A number of observers have come to town. There have been a series of briefings by these civil society organizations, including those who are looking at the issues of women in this election, the issues of persons with disability.
Okay.
That is just where we are as far as what we've observed since we got to the States.
I know that, of course, the institute, the agency actually your agency did a press release as regards, this election, where it talked about the stakeholders in this process, being up and doing, from journalists even to political parties, and then the umpire, INEC. I would like you to speak more on the role of what some will call the beneficiaries of this process, which is the political parties. I've had on this program where some people have started raising concerns as regards issues of vote buying, issues of voter inducement and all of that. Is it okay to say that over the years, political parties really pulling their weight to ensure that processes like this are credible from your observation?
Well, I don't think they're pulling their weight. Now, one of the briefings that was held today included that of ElectR, which is another partner organization under the EUSDJ, and they presented their pre-election report. In that report, they presented the findings of our opinion poll they conducted, especially among potential women voters, and they were asking them the agencies or the institutions from which they got most information about the electoral process, including voting. In other words, civic and voter education. And the result of their poll showed that the CSOs, civil society organizations, and non-governmental organizations provided more information than all other institutions at about 48%. That was followed by INEC at about 30-something% and others. But when it came to political parties, the respondents said there were just 24% who said they got information about the voting process from the political parties. What that indicates is that political parties are not, doing their work. And in my comment at that forum, I actually said, well, it will seem as if rather than going out, educating voters, mobilizing their supporters, the political parties are probably just looking at, inducement, vote buying, which is a problem, which has been part of our conversation, for example. And the position of INEC is that, well, there is what the law requires is that within the 300-meter radius of each polling unit, no other activity is supposed to take place other than people coming in to cast their vote. In other words, vote buying cannot take place within that precinct. But then what happens outside of that radius? That has been the question. And they said, well, the security agencies are well mobilized, but we do know that vote buying has also moved with technology. So it's not something that perhaps you can see, physically. And this is a major, problem. But we can also look at it from the point of view of the people. Why do people still feel that they should take money? And the basic reason from all studies, research, observations, is that people feel that that is the only thing they can get. They don't really have that hope that when people get elected, they will do what they promise to do. And that means that we need to do more to hold those we elect accountable. Because if people see elements of fulfillment of promises, perhaps they could be encouraged. So these are some of the challenges that we see in relation to that. So when it comes to stakeholders, we need to do more to hold political parties accountable, not just in terms of campaigning for votes or even getting elected, on their responsibilities. They leave their responsibilities to civil society organizations, to INEC, which is already overburdened, particularly when you are looking at the issue of civic and voter education. So this is just the indication that we've gotten from our observation.
All right. There's also the issue of trust in the process, particularly from Nigerians. We know that over time, elections like this have come and gone, and when you ask many Nigerians, there are strong reservations as regards how it went. People will still come out to say, you know what, it was rigged and it wasn't free and fair. So what do you think an agency like INEC, which is the major umpire, can do differently this time around to ensure that voter confidence is boosted?
Well, it's very, very simple. It's for INEC to live by its promise, to fulfill what it is promised. So, for example, the question of ensuring that BVAS, which is the primary voting tool now, because BVAS is going to be used to accredit voters, and when voting is concluded in each polling unit and the votes are counted, then it is BVAS that will be used to snap the results from EC8, which will then be uploaded to IREV, which is just a display board. IREV is not the collation, center. We raised this with them, and they said they expect the BVAS to work, and they already have backup in case there are technical issues. That is at that level. They've also said that results will be uploaded to IREV for people to see the progress of the voting. What will be uploaded on IREV are just results from the polling units, not that it will be used to declare the winner, because our electoral law still makes collation manual. That is what the law says. So in spite of the fact that you can see the result on IREV, invariably it will still be done manually at the different stages of collation. So for INEC, it's just to ensure that these things happen. It's to ensure that we don't have incidents of delay in movement of personnel and materials on election day. I guess that is what they need to do for the trust which has been affected, can gradually get it back from the people. That is important. But it's also important to say that when it comes to the process, the political parties too must do their duties very well on election day. The agents are very, very important, because at each polling unit, they're supposed to see that the process is okay. If they see anything going wrong, they're supposed to raise it and report. And then when the result is declared, they're supposed to sign and have copy. So that whether the result goes to IREV or not, each political party should have the result from all the polling units. And that will be the evidence that you need, particularly if you find yourself in a situation whereby you want to maybe challenge the result or not. So, but you see, some of these political parties just get agents who don't even understand the process, because the whole process is transactional. We need to have agents. Okay, they just grab anybody and put them there. So when we talk of building trust in the process, political parties also have a role to play, and it's not just the INEC alone.
All right, just in 30 seconds before I let you go, the role of the press in all of this, because at the end of the day, information is conveyed through the press. So in 30 seconds, how do you think our job, in this process, how do you think it can be efficient?
Well, I think it can be efficient if we do not have a molestation by security agents. And this is also one of the promises we've tried to extract from the police and even the army, that we don't want any molestation of journalists that are accredited to cover the elections, and that they need to treat journalists with respect, because the vehicles will have election duty tags. They also going to wear INEC tags, and they're going to have the identity cards. Then we've also tried to remind the security agents that some journalists are accredited to be at the collation centers. So they shouldn't just see journalists at the accreditation center and begin to chase them and begin to molest them. We would not like to see that. We've advised our colleagues going to the field to be very conscious of their safety. Those who are going to be deployed to cover elections in the riverine areas, we have told them, do not enter any boat that does not have safety jackets. As a matter of fact, ask your employer to provide safety jacket for you, so that even if the boat owners don't have, nothing says you cannot have it yourself. Either you buy it or you rent it. Because recently we've lost journalists to boat mishaps, particularly in Bayelsa State. We do not want that to repeat itself. So we have asked our journalists to take their safety seriously, watch out. We hope that there will be no outbreak of violence, but we say, look, dress properly, be well kitted, so that if there is a need for you to run, you know how to run. And they should also have contact details of the DPO. We have advised them to get in touch with the first PRO in this state, who has been very proactive and quite open. They should reach her so that they can get contact numbers of DPOs in case there's any problem. But more importantly, the political parties should restrain some of their overzealous supporters from attacking journalists. Because the analysis of attacks on journalists that we've done at previous elections showed that the perpetrators are not just security agents, they also include political party agents who, for example, would target journalists who work for maybe state media or private media whose owners have political interests. Our position is that they should understand, for journalists on the field, their political party is journalism. They don't belong to any other political parties. So we hope with all this, our journalists will be safe and they will be able to report factually without also slipping into the error of carrying any form of disinformation or misinformation.
All right, thank you so much for your time on the program. Mr. Lanre Arogundade is the Executive Director of the International Press Center. Once again, thank you for being on Politics HQ on News Central TV. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again.
At this point, we'll go on a quick break. When we return, we, of course, will be discussing another pivotal issue, actually a breaking story today that has to do with the judiciary. Stay with us. All right, at this point, let's switch gears to a judicial matter where the National Judicial Commission or Council has suspended 2 judges, Justice G.C. Aguma of the Rivers State High Court and Justice A.O. Nwabunike of the Anambra State High Court for misconduct. Now, both judges received a 1-year suspension without pay and were placed on a 2-year watch list following the NJC's 107th meeting on November. And of course, this has elicited quite a number of reactions across not just the judicial space, but Nigeria. I have with me on the program Barrister Timothy Tugbele. He will, of course, be shedding more light or giving us, a legal perspective to all of this. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Good evening, viewers.
Good evening. Yes, good evening, sir. Now, looking at this recent development within the judicial space, what does this portend or reflect of Nigeria's judiciary, especially under the new leadership of Justice Kekere Ekun?
Justice Kekere Ekun, many people have said she's a no-nonsense judge. And it cannot be said that she's the one that is responsible for the suspension of the judges. There's a council that has sat over any allegation of misconduct against them. I believe they must have been given fair hearing. So they are being suspended. It cannot be said that Justice Kekere Ekun suspended them from office. The council that sat over their matter made the decision to suspend them for misconduct. So it's not Justice Kekere who suspended them.
Definitely, but that taken, but what does this reflect, of the judicial space in Nigeria, given the amount of judges that, are affected?
From the report that you have stated just now, these are just 2 judges. Judges in Nigeria, there are probably up to 1,000 judges in Nigeria. So if 2 out of 1,000 or 2 out of 500 are suspended, this does not have anything negative to say about the judiciary in Nigeria.
Are you saying, sir, that this does not reflect a deeper rot in the system?
2 judges out of maybe 500 judges in Nigeria doesn't show any rot in the system. 2 out of 500 just shows, every society, there will be some black sheep. So if 2 out of 500 judges are suspended, I think some were suspended and disciplined sometimes last year. They were not up to 10. So if we have about 500 judges in Nigeria, and in the last 1 year, about 10 judges have been disciplined one way or the other, it doesn't show anything in the system, anything negative in the system. 10 out of 500. Those probably are the bad eggs. 10 bad eggs out of 500 eggs. It doesn't show that the judiciary in Nigeria is rotten. That's my view.
Okay, we are beginning to see a scenario where I use the word confidence right now in the judicial system seems to dwindle, largely as a result of political interference. Right now, many are even asking if at all, Nigeria's judicial system is the last hope for the common man. Do you think moves like this would further boost in any way the confidence people have in Nigeria's judicial space?
If 2 judges are suspended from performing their duty, and maybe in the last 1 year, 10 judges have been disciplined one way or the other, it shows that if a judge errs in the conduct of his or her duty, he or she can be disciplined. And this helps to repose confidence in the judiciary. I don't think people have lost confidence in the judiciary. I don't think so. There could be corrupt judges. But as I said, in the last 1 year, maybe 10 out of 500 judges all over the country have been disciplined. This should not in any way erode the confidence that Nigerians should have in the Nigerian judiciary.
All right, sir, before I let you go.
That's my view.
Before I let you go, for many, they've said, well, this is a welcome development, given the new leadership and her antecedent, even though we know that this decision wasn't, a sole decision. It came as a result of the council meeting and all of that. What do you think can be done further to ensure that Nigeria's judicial system stays solid?
As it is now, if judges are being disciplined, Nigerians know that if they believe a judge is corrupt or there's allegation of misconduct against a particular judge, they now know that they can write a petition against that particular judge. And so this gives Nigerians the confidence that a judge is not absolute. A judge is not above any other man or above the law. So if a judge is misbehaving, quote and unquote, or you allege acts of misconduct, and you allege corruption, you can write a petition to the NJC concerning a particular judge. So this gives people confidence to know that, they now know that judges are subject to discipline.
All right, thank you.
So this gives people confidence in the judiciary in Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much for your time on the program. Barrister Timothy Tugbele, once again, we sincerely appreciate your insight. Thank you.
I'm grateful. Thank you.
All right. At this point, we'll go on a quick break. When we return, of course, we'll go back to our analysis on the forthcoming Ondo State Guber polls. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. This, of course, is still News Central Television, and you're watching Politics HQ. My name is once again Dapo Adegboye. Now, let's go back to Ondo State, where in just a few hours from now, the state will be conducting its gubernatorial election. And of course, I have joining me to speak on this Mr. Olawale Okunniyi. He, of course, will be joining virtually on the program. Thank you so much for your time. Now, Mr. Olawale Okunniyi is the head of Secretariat, that's Labour and Civil Society Front. He's joining virtually from Lagos. Once again, thank you for staying with me, Mr. Olawale Okunniyi.
Yeah.
All right, great. It's great to have you, sir. Now, let me ask you, I want to believe that you've been a keen observer of the build-up to this particular election. Given what we have seen in Ondo State, and now the Ondo governorship election is about to take off, are there takeaways for you? Okay, I understand that we are trying, of course, to connect with Mr. Olawale Okunniyi. But just to bring you up to speed, the Ondo election has about 17 candidates fielding for the top job in the state. The top contenders being the APC and, of course, the People's Democratic Party. I understand we have Mr. Okunniyi back. We lost you for a moment, sir. Please, you might want to pick up.
Yes, that we really need to do something quickly. INEC would have to intervene here to say, well, IREF must work and must work well. But what is worth doing at all is worth doing well. Electronic transmission of results in Nigeria is still a problem. And therefore, we need to do something. Because if you do all, and a particular candidate wins, in terms of the voting, and then you upload a different result, it means that election and mandate of people have been circumvented. And that doesn't take us anywhere, because it's not going to make governance accountable to the people. And therefore, we must do something. INEC must, as a matter of urgency, see to the fact that all election results are uploaded from network, or technology must be strong enough to accommodate that. Except we get that right, we may have problem. We may run into another dispute. In Edo today, the election results is still being contested, and contested very strongly. And it has discredited the whole thing. And therefore, we must not repeat that here. I'm in Akure, I've gone round. I've seen the voters, I've seen the electorate, I've seen stakeholders. And I think they are upbeat about the fact that, well, election will be credible. But then some people are also very worried, stakeholders are worried that what happened in Edo should not happen, in which case, on the IREF, we have parted results. So that is the major takeaway. And vote buying, just I listened to Lanre Arogundade, it's also a critical thing. And people are already saying that vote will be bought. There will be trading tomorrow. People are already perfecting that. I hear people saying 30,000 or 20,000 per voter and the rest. So election in our climate, you buy power. It's been bought. Mandate is being bought. It is not given naturally anymore. And therefore, INEC should be worried. INEC stakeholders should be concerned where you either buy your, you read it through the results. The IRF uploading or whatever. I mean, as a matter of fact, what the law states is that the presiding officer at every polling unit should upload real-time election result of that polling unit to the INEC portal.
But INEC has said that the portal is that's the IREV is not a collation center, I mean, more or less it's just to sort of view the documents that is being uploaded there. And I mean, you've talked also on the issue of vote buying and all. Let's also look at the issue of INEC itself trying to build the confidence and trust, you know, of Nigerians, you know, through these elections. We saw, just like you stated, what happened in Ondo State, where there are heavy reservations. What areas, particular areas, do you think issues of trust can be nipped in the bud, such that once the results, you know, are announced, people will say, you know what, the process was transparent and a reflection of the will of the people? In 30 seconds. I understand we have a bit of connectivity issues with Mr. Olawale Okunniyi. At this point, we'll go on a quick break. When we return, of course, the show will continue. Stay with us. Now, just before we wrap up the show, let's look at this. Now, as the Gaza-Israel conflict continues with severe civilian casualties and devastations, Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has joined many international leaders to call for a halt to Israel's aggression in Gaza. Speaking at the Emergency Arab Islamic Summit in Riyadh on November 11th, the president actually did condemn the ongoing violence and urged immediate action to alleviate the humanitarian crisis, while reiterating Nigeria's support for a two-state solution, and also stressing that peaceful coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians is the only viable solution for the problem. Well, joining me to discuss this is Abraham Great. He's a public affairs analyst. He joins from Ottawa, Canada. Thank you for your time. Now, a quick one.
Thank you for having me, Dapo.
Great. Let me just know briefly in 30 seconds your opinion on what Israel is doing in Gaza. Some have said, well, Israel might have its reasons and a right to continue with what it's doing. Others are saying Israel is committing grave offenses there, particularly around humanitarian angles. What's your take?
When you have a global issue or a binary issue, issues that borders around polarity, one side thinks this way, majority of people who support Israel have their reasons, perhaps a religious reason. Some actually support Israel. Also, they will call it a moral ground, bearing what happened October 6th of last year, talking about the invasion into Israel. But on humanitarian ground, if you're not even considering religion, you can easily just think maybe too much is happening from the side of Israel. You know, many lives, since the conflict started, you could say that hundreds of thousands of lives have been lost or displaced in some way. So no matter what way, what side you want to weigh in on, I think humanity should be prevalent in our thought that neither side should be going through what they are going through at the moment. Israel do have the right of existence, as does every nation on the earth has the right of existence. But so does Gaza has the right of history. and the right of possession of what they believe is theirs. What are we really looking for? What does the global world want for? Is that we can have a situation where there can be amicable, a peace treaty, where the two countries will be able to coexist peacefully.
All right, now President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is proposing a two-state solution, just like many other international, leaders. Do you see a way forward there?
I mean, this has been the consensus on Global Summit for so long, and I think at some point, I think it was, even in the 90s and at some point in the early 20s, we thought we came close to Israel and Palestine coming to an agreement on a two-state solution. If you've been to the region, for me, I see the issue as part of the global political cacophony, that is going on around the world. I recall I was in Israel a particular year, I think it was 2018 or 19 or thereabout, when the president of America at the time, I think Donald Trump, had moved the headquarters of Israel into Jerusalem instead of Tel Aviv. I was actually with some of my staff at that time in Israel that day. And it shocks me to realize that what we were seeing on CNN was completely different from what was going on in the country. I sat down with Palestinians, I ate with Israelis and Palestinians, and you could see that both of them are cohabiting. Actually, we went into Nazareth. I mean, I often go there until the lockdown that I haven't been there. It's very difficult to take a side because these issues sometimes are part of what culminates into foreign policies, foreign budgets for many developed nations. So my opinion here could be one that is abstract rather than taking a side.
I mean, quickly, before I let you go, do you think the emergence of Donald Trump as President of the United States will impact in any way on this conflict, on this war?
I mean, what I would say, and it will be my opinion, it's just solely my opinion. I don't know if this is to be evident. We saw that actually Israel and this conflict probably play a role in the last election, because one of the key factors that dictates American election, or what way that the American election is swayed, is the foreign policy. And people underrate the impact of foreign policy. One of the professors that does, that very good in predicting the outcome of elections with his starting point, Professor Lynchman. One of the things that he got wrong is the fact that he actually attributed, which I believe him, that the Democratic Party had handled the foreign policy or issue, in a very good manner. Whereas we are forgetting something. Donald Trump, in his first term as President of the United States of America, had built a very funny and close relationship with the Prime Minister of Israel, with Netanyahu. So there is a solid relationship, and you will realize that during the campaign, Donald Trump was actually saying it publicly. He said he has told Netanyahu not to take certain decisions until after the election. So you can tell that not only that, you don't also want to forget about the relationship of Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. He's got this, I would say, you could call it a very clandestine relationship, being Israelis himself, with Tel Aviv or with Jerusalem. So I wouldn't rule out anything. And please, allow me to say this, that a lot of the war and a lot of the disasters, conflicts that we see around the world are just political games.
Thank you so much for your time.
And we saw that in the movie. If you remember the movie that, a beautiful movie that Nicolas Cage gave us once, The Lord of War. Remember The Lord of War?
Yes.
You see what is going on around the world?
I remember that movie.
You realize that these conflicts go on, and the political budget, the economic budget, the foreign policy budget of many developed nations are inflated. Some people are beneficiaries of these things.
Yeah, unfortunately. But thank you so much for your time on the program, Abraham. Great. It's great to have you discuss this issue with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. At this point, this is where we, of course, bring the show to a close. In case you missed out, you can actually catch up on our YouTube platform. That's News Central TV. You can also follow us across social media with the same handle at News Central TV. You can follow me personally at Dapo Adegboye. The opinion of our guest remains theirs and not that of News Central. Stay with us.